Assalamoalaikum, greetings of peace. My name is Hafsa and I'm your host for YATA Talks. Today we have a reoccurring guest, Brother Omar Zia, who is a teacher and a guidance counselor for the Peel District School Board. Thank you so much for being here again, and it's so nice to see you. So for our new guest, just introduce yourself.
So my name is Omar Zia. I'm a teacher and a guidance counselor with the Peel District School Board. I've been doing that for just about 20 years now, and it's a role that allows me to really connect with students in a way that other teachers cannot in the regular classroom setting. It allows me to support students emotionally and socially, as well as provide them academic supports. It also allows me to work with parents and families as a whole to support the development of their children.
Well, so once again, it's great to see you. So today we're going to talk about emotional abuse. So can you first define what emotional abuse is?
So there are several types of abuse: social abuse, emotional abuse, academic abuse. There could be physical abuse as well. Academic abuse might sound strange, but plagiarism is academic abuse. Physical abuse, I'm sure we're all aware of: capital or corporal punishment, physically hitting another person, putting them through some physical torture or abuse of that sort. Social abuse and emotional abuse are types of abuse that are not always talked about. Social abuse mostly manifests itself in terms of bullying or cyberbullying, where a person is felt that they're not part of the in-group, or they're not part of the group at all. They are ostracized by the larger community of peers, or even within a family for that matter, and they don't feel connected to anybody outside of themselves. That is also part of emotional abuse. Emotional abuse is where a person does not have any confidence from the outside world, and as a result, their self-esteem or their self-confidence erodes away as well. They are made to feel less than a regular human being. It could be thought processes that occur to them. It could also be explicitly told to them through insults, through comparison to other people, through underachieving in academics, and underachieving in terms of social relationships as well. So there's a wide variety. Emotional abuse is a general term, but there's a lot of facets to it that looks like and sounds like and feels like in the daily life of someone undergoing that. Emotional abuse can also then lend itself to other mental health illnesses, such as depression, general anxiety disorder, and the like thereof.
So when it comes to emotional abuse, what you've just described to us, it's very serious. So why do we find most of the times more attention is given to physical abuse rather than emotional abuse?
Good question. You can see physical abuse. You can see bruises, you can see cuts, you can see the cast on the person's arm, and you know that some sort of physical abuse has occurred. Generally speaking, when officers of the law are responding to domestic issues, it's about physical domestic abuse that has occurred. Emotional abuse, you can hardly ever see it. Especially if there are parents watching this, you might think your kids are happy because on the outside they look happy, but on the inside they're crumbling on the inside. And this is what often happens with emotional abuse, is that we don't see it, it's hidden. In society, we have to do a really good job of hiding what we're going through. You walk down the street, and for the most part, you see people seem to be happy, people are talking, people seem to be at a state of peace and tranquility, but we don't know what's going on inside their mind. We don't know what they're thinking about. We don't know what's constantly going on, what consistent memories are being triggered, what words happened that morning that we're not fully aware of. As a guidance counselor, I can let you know that when we're working with students who have emotional abuse, we're quite aware of who they are. We check in with them regularly, but a lot of students don't ever tell anybody about the emotional abuse that they're going through. So it becomes quite hidden, and it continues with them after high school into post-secondary, sometimes even to married life and beyond. Some parents have emotional scars from emotional abuse they received when they were kids, and it doesn't come out until they become parents themselves. So emotional abuse is something that can have a lot longer lasting impact than physical abuse. Physical scars heal pretty quickly, right? We have a great body to be given to us, but the emotional scars that we hide underneath our skin might take decades to heal from.
So they're very hideable. It's something you cannot see. So what are signs of emotional abuse, and how can we identify close people who are close to us, whether or not they're undergoing emotional abuse, and how can they understand who's their abuser or how they are being abused?
Okay, it's a great question, and again, it depends on who we're working with and the relationship you have with the person you're thinking about, whether it's my friend, whether it's my parent, whether it's my sibling, a cousin, whatever have you. And emotional abuse or the result of emotional abuse can manifest itself in many different ways. Now, amongst teenagers in the high school setting, what I often see as a guidance counselor is avoidance. They are avoiding going to class. They're avoiding school altogether. They actually develop school phobia. Sometimes they're avoiding doing their homework. Sometimes they're avoiding making proper changes to their academic pathway from university to college because of the fear of further emotional abuse from the home environment or any other environment for that matter. But we also have avoidance at home as well. To give you an example, when I leave school around 3:30, my school finishes at 2:30, the kids who I still see an hour later after school's finished in the hallways at school, hanging out in the basketball court or in the gym or on the playground, why aren't these kids going home? There's some sort of an emotional vacuum that's happening in the home environment where they don't feel supported. That's another sign that a person can look for. Sometimes it can also manifest itself in anxiety, poor eating habits, poor sleeping habits. Anorexia and bulimia can also be results of it, or binge eating, or binge video game watching or playing, where a person escapes from the source of emotional abuse that exists and they dive into TV, they dive into their devices, they dive into video games because they don't want to deal with the pressures that exist around them when it comes to emotional abuse.
So too much, too little, that could be a sign. So many things are a sign. So if someone suspects an individual that they know has suffered from emotional abuse, or someone suspects that they themselves have suffered from emotional abuse, where should they go? Who should they talk to?
Well, let's start with that. How do you actually have a conversation with somebody? If I have a friend or if I've got a student in my school who I may have concerns about, or a teacher tips me off and says, I think that kid might need someone to talk to, what is it that gets our spidey sense up or tingling a bit, right? It's because we do notice, especially when we're seeing someone on a regular basis, we do notice a sudden change in their behavior. It might be a subtle change, might be something that other people can't notice, but if we're close to that person, we will see that change prevalent. So how do we approach them, first of all, to get them to talk about it and verify what actually is happening in their life? Asking them a question such as, I've noticed that there's been a subtle change in your behavior. I'm your best friend and I love you very much and I want to make sure that you're good, you're safe and sound. How can I help you? Open the conversation, open the doors, invite the person to talk. I've been going through a bit of a hard time these days. I seem to notice that you seem to be going through some hard times as well. You mind sharing me what's going on with you, and I can share with you. Maybe we can help each other, right? Or it might be something like, help me understand, why are you skipping class all the time? I miss you in class. Or help me understand why you're not getting your homework done. Or help me understand why, as a parent, help me understand why you're not coming to the dinner table anymore. Help me why you're having some insomnia. Where are the stresses and anxieties? What's happening in your life? Now, what if a person is going through emotional abuse, like you said, and doesn't even know it themselves, right? I think as human beings, we do know things are changing in us. Especially as a teenager, we go through hormonal changes and we go through puberty and adolescence, and that, in and of itself can be, quite daunting. But we know ourselves best, and we need to look out for our own signs. If I see that I'm not sleeping well anymore, or I'm trying to avoid certain personalities, I'm skipping math class because of the teacher, she keeps saying this and this to me. Or I'm avoiding science class because those people sit next to me that keep making fun of me, right? We need to be aware of our own cues that are causing us to become avoiding life in general, or taking our energies and pouring them into something that is irrelevant to our future progression in life, in terms of a career or moving on with developing who we are in terms of our identities. So being aware of that and then seeking out help. And there are a number of places you can seek out help from. First and foremost, in a school setting, go visit your guidance counselor. Hopefully you have a good one. If you don't have a good guidance counselor, find a great teacher that you get along with. Go see an administrator, right? At the very least, these people, whether they'll give you their time and lend you an ear and try to give you some advice, they may also share with you community contacts that are available. And there are a number of places in the community that kids can turn to, that adults and parents can also turn to as well. One of them being, for our community, the Nasiha Muslim Youth Helpline. It's available Monday to Friday from 6 p.m. to 9 p.m. And that's definitely a resource that people can use. Another one is the Kids Helpline, which is a 24/7, 365 days available all throughout the year. Those counselors are also being trained in faith-based issues as well. So even if a person is from a faith group, there should not be any hesitation to call them as well, because they're more available than the Nasiha Youth Helpline is at this time. There's also a great website called inyourhead.ca. INURHEAD, so in your head with UR instead of YOUR. And it's actually a website designed by social workers, psychologists, and guidance counselors from the Peel Board and the Dufferin Catholic Peel Board. And so there's a side for parents and a side for kids. So I recommend, if you haven't gone to this website before, inyourhead.ca, it's a great website to look at. And the last one I'll mention is Big White Wall. And it's an online service. It's called peer-to-peer counseling. It is monitored through social workers and psychologists. And it's a global website. So you go on there, you kind of type in your problem. You might find other people have been talking about the problem as well. You can read advice, you can share advice, and you can share some of the experiences that you might be going through, and then kind of find other people where that resonates with, and find yourself being supported through that online environment as well.
Well, thank you so much for all this information you've given us, and thank you so much for talking about such a difficult topic. So just really quickly, if you could sum up to the youth watching how important it is to take care of their emotional health.
Thank you. Emotional health, generally speaking, mental health and well-being is extremely, extremely important. Why? Because it will affect who we are today and who we will become tomorrow. If I don't take care of my mental health right now and ensure that I'm in a good state of well-being now at this age, whether I'm 12, 13, 14, 15, 25, 45, as time continues, I will continue to degrade, and that will affect my relationships with people. It will affect my relationship with my Creator. It will affect my relationship with who I am, who I believe I am, whether as a Muslim, as a student, as a male or female, whatever communities I belong to, whatever languages I speak, whatever I find my identity. So having a strong and stable foundation with having good mental health and well-being is essential for survival in the world moving forward. So please do take it very seriously and get the help you need, even if you want to be proactive and meet with your guidance counselor about strategies to ensure that you have a strong mental health and that you have confidence and self-esteem growing inside yourself day by day, so you can become the best version of yourself you could possibly be, living up to your true potential in life.
Well, thank you so much for coming here again. It's always a pleasure to have you.
My pleasure. Thank you.
If you liked our topic today and you're interested in getting in contact with Omar Zia, click the links below. Click the link below for our email and website, and keep sending us your questions. I'm your host for YATA Talks, Hafsa.